Want to put you on mute?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do this? Oh, here it is.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Shavuot Tov.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
Steve. Hi.
I'm sure you all saw the videos of what was going on today in front of Adas Torah.
No, we didn't see. Tell us. Bad
There were riots today.
Protests.
on Pico Boulevard?
Yeah, horrible, horrible.
Obviously, it will not be in the news, right?
I'm sure this will be in the news.
If you look at Jewish breaking news,
Oh, I'm sure it was on the regular
and if you
news.
look at the security, like, you know, there's the La Brea security, she has all the videos on there.
Okay, we are Mellachim Beis, Perek Beis, Pasuk Yud Aleph.
What pasuk?
Pasuk Yud Aleph. I'm just waiting for some stragglers to sign on, if they're gonna sign on.
I think some people are away. I think.
Okay,
Oh, Harold and Magda are gone.
Are they on their trip?
I think so. I think they left today.
Oh, Bernie, you're supposed to.
Yeah. Oh, it's tomorrow they're leaving or whatever. I think they're in New Jersey for the grandchildren's graduation. And they're on their way. Next time.
Susie, how was La Costa?
Very nice. I think they refurbished the rooms. And the best is that it's 5 minutes from the Chabad. So that's great for Ernie. So that was really
I heard it's good for you too. What's wrong with that shop?
Hello.
great. It's
Had a
great.
nice time.
It was very nice. It's very
Very
easy,
good.
comfortable.
okay. Mellachim Beis, Perek Beis, Pasuk Yud Aleph, which we have already learned, but we'll continue. Vayi ema holchim aloch v'daber. We said Eliyahu and Elisha were walking, talking Torah. B'nei rechav eish v'susei eish. A chariot of fire and horses of fire came down. Vayafridu ben shneim, separated them. Vayal Eliyahu b'sar shamayim. And Eliyahu went up lebedikahait to heaven. Now, last week, we brought some of the chazals about the importance of when you leave a friend, you're supposed to leave him with a Dvar Torah. And Chazal said, Shnei Talmidei Chachamim hamalchim baderech ve'ein b'nei divrei Torah ru'in lisorf ba'esh. Two Talmidei Chachamim walking. They're not talking Torah. They are fit to be burnt in fire. Hainu dafka beineim, shehem medabrim echad im chaver divrei Torah. V'lo sagi b'zeh shekol echad lo yomer la'atzmo. It's not enough. Each one of them was speaking toward to them by themselves. And in fact, the Yalkut Shimoni says, "Hamalach utzrach la'afrid Eliyahu me'Elisha k'tei likach Eliyahu min ha'olam." Just like we have this story by David HaMelech, that the Malach HaMavis came on Shabbos to try to take him, and he was talking Torah, and they made it that a wind blew through the trees, so David got startled and he stopped for a minute, and that's how the Malach could take him. Here as well, when it says that the Malach came between Eliyahu and Elisha, he wouldn't have been able to take Eliyahu from the world unless he had separated these two great Nevi'im. So says Rav Chaim Volozhiner in the Ruach Chaim. Afilu kol echad lo yamin ba'atzmo. You have to learn with a chavrusa. So Rav Schwab says, when a man has a thought, a chiddush, you want to say it to somebody else. He's more emotional about it, and he wants to speak it out. So if you're learning and you're not speaking it out to your friend, it's a sign that it's not choshev to him. And it's not protective enough. They needed to both together to be protected from bad. So since the T'nai came through that Eliyahu said, listen, if you witness my being taken to Shemayim, then I will give you double of my ruach. The Yalkut Shimoni explains that in Eliyahu Navi's lifetime, he performed 8 miracles. And Elisha
16.
did 16. And let's go through them. Number 1, Eliyahu stopped the rain from falling. And then when he went to he needed to provide sustenance, there was a karakemach and a tzapach shemen that kept on overflowing. And then there was a child of a widow that he brought back to life. He was moirid eish al gabi mizbeach by the Har Carmel. And then he caused the rain to flow again. Then he went without eating 40 days when he had his gilui with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then the fire came down and consumed 50 of the officers that were sent to kill him. And the 8th is that he split the Yarden when Eliyahu and Elisha crossed. What are the 16 of Elisha? Well, some of these we don't know yet because we haven't learned them. But there's 16 that are brought down, and maybe after we go through the life of Elisha, we'll come back to this one. We'll point out the 16 Nisim. Pasuk Yud Beis. The Elisha Roeh. Elisha saw, and not the Bnei Nevi'im. Remember, there were 50 Bnei Nevi'im on the other side of the Jordan. They did not see Eliyahu being taken. V'hu mitza'ek avi avi rechav Yisrael u'forasha. This is the famous declaration of Elisha. He called out, Father, Father, you are the chariot of Israel and its horses. V'lo ra'ahu od. And Elisha never saw Eliyahu again. Vayachazek bivgadav. On seeing Eliyahu taken from him, he tore Kriya. he grabbed hold of his garment, vayikraim l'shnaim kraim, and tore them into two pieces. We already said that the horses of fire and the chariot of fire was not physical. That was all a Mara Nevuah. And that's why the Bnei Nevi'im didn't see it. And only through Ruach HaKodesh and through the Koach of the Pishnayim that was granted to Elisha by Eliyahu did he see it. Now, what is this Avi Avi? So Rashi says that it's like Rebbe. Eliyahu was his Rebbe, and we'll see in a minute how it relates to it being a father. And what do you mean Rechav Yisrael Farasha? That Eliyahu was good for the Jewish people with his davening like a chariot, even greater than chariots with weapons of all the people of the world. Or Elisha was saying that Eliyahu was protective of Klal Yisrael, and not like a Rechav, like a chariot going in front of the nations. So you're supposed to tear Kriya for your Rebbe as well. And we'll see what type of Kriya. It's a Kriya that you can't sew back up.
But this is the cloak of Eliyahu that he tore, not his own begadim. That was the way.
No, I don't think he tore the Aderes Eliyahu, because we're going to see he's going to make use of the Aderes Eliyahu. The cloak that he took from Eliyahu, we're going to see he does something with them later. His own garment.
Can I tell you what the Abarbanel said?
Okay, please.
It's not by accident that Eliyahu's cloak fell as he rose to heaven. The cloak was the symbol of prophecy and leadership. When Eliyahu first invited Elisha to become his disciple, it was by passing his cloak to him. So you're referring to that cloak?
Yes, that's the Aderes Eliyahu. That cloak. And why do you say that that's the one he tore Kriya on?
And I saw that here.
Right now, let's learn Pshat that he tore his regular begodim.
Okay.
He had the Aderes Eliyahu. Okay. Now, in Moed,
Okay.
yes?
The Malbim also says the cloak represented the separation between Eliyahu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Now that he let it go, he had risen to a level where he no longer needed it. That would be necessary. But there was always a cloak. That's how he received his nevuah. Now that he was ascended to Shemayim, he did not need the cloak anymore.
He gave it to Elisha. He gave it. Remember, he covered Elisha with it when he handed over his nevuah. And yes, Elisha will walk around with the Aderes Eliyahu as the symbol of nevuah.
Except, okay, I don't want to challenge, but
well, who brings?
Barbanel says he didn't just tear it in two; he tore it into many pieces.
Yeah, but the Barbanel doesn't say that he tore the Aderes Eliyahu, does he?
Some say that Elisha not only made a tear in his clothes, but demonstrated his mourning, but tore it completely to pieces. He no longer, because he was no longer a disciple, now he became the leader, he became the Navi, the prime Navi. Beforehand, it represented, he had showed respect for Eliyahu with that beged. He destroyed his old clothes to show that he would no longer be wearing them anymore. Maybe that's what you're referring to. From now on, he would wear the cloak of Eliyahu. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no. So we'll see. We're gonna see what kind of kriya he tore. So first, let's learn the Chazal from Moed Katan Chavav Amud Aleph. That you have to tear kriya for your father, your mother, and your Rebbe. Avi v'imo v'rabo shalim de Torah. Minola. How do you know shechayv l'kro aleim kriya she'ena misachet? For these three types, we tear a kriya that we don't sew back up. Dichsiv, the Elisha roa v'hu mitzak avi rechav Yisrael u'farosha. Avi ze avi v'imo. Avi refers to his father and mother. Rechav Yisrael u'farosha ze rabo shalim de Torah. It refers to the fact that he was his Rebbe. Hare, the Avi koilav Avi v'imo kipshuto. He related to Eliyahu as a father and a mother too. Remember, Elisha left his father and mother to join Eliyahu. The Rechav Yisrael is koyal rabba. Nimtza shemita'er le'Eliyahu ke'av u'ke'em u'kerav. Eliyahu's relationship for Elisha is like a father, a mother, and a Rebbe. We learned in Perek Yud Tes, Lachim Aleph, Ozav Elisha es Aviv es Imo, the Halach Achre Eliyahu. So Eliyahu became for him like a father and mother. Now that Eliyahu is disappearing, he's being mitzvah on Eliyahu for these three relationships: father, mother, and Rebbe. Just like a father and a mother worry about the physical needs of their children, so Eliyahu also worried about the physical needs of his talmidim. A Rebbe is chayiv, not just for the neshama of his talmidim, but even for the tzorchei haguf of his talmidim. We'll see Elisha did it himself with his talmidim. And that's why he yelled Avi, because he was in a Av ve'ein. Now we also see many times where talmidim are called bonim, and the Rebbe is called an Av. Rashi in Chumash, where it says Vishinantam levanecha in Shema, Elu talmidim. It refers to the talmidim. Rashi says Matzir b'chol mokom shel talmidim kruim bonim shene'amar banim atem la'Hashem Elokecha. The Oimer, it says in Mellachim Beis here, B'nei Anavim asher Beis Kel, and V'chein B'chizkiyahu, Shalom Ator l'chol Yisrael, V'karam Bonim. It says in Divrei Yomim, Banai Ata Al Tishol. So just like the Talmidim are called Bonim, the Rav is called an Av. And Rashi brings the pasuk, Avi Rechav Yisrael Ufaroshav. Now, you could ask, why then did Elisha not say Rebbe? We have many chazals where a Rebbe is even more important than a parent. Like we learned in Bava Metzia, our Daf Yomi Masechta, Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, Avedas Aviv, Avedas Rabbo. You found the lost object of your father and of your Rebbe. Who do you have to give it back first? Avedas Rabbi Kedemis. Says the Gemara, Aviv Aviv L'chaylam Hazeh. Your father brings you to this world. The Rabbo Shalom Datom Aviv L'chaylam Haba brings you to the eternal world. So the Madreg of the Rebbe is greater than the father. So the Meforshim ask, why didn't Elisha call out Rebbe, not Avi? So Rav Cheskel Levenstein, who was the Mazgiach in the Mir Yeshiva, in the Ponovich Yeshiva in the 20th century, when the Griz Soloveitchik, Rav Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik uncle, the son of Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, the Griz, died, Rav Cheskel Levenstein said this in the Hesped. He explained that Chazal have a statement, V'zorach HaShemesh uvo HaShemesh. The sun sets, the sun rises. Ad shelo yashkeh Kadosh Baruch Hu shimsho shel tzadik zeh, u'mazriach shimsho shel tzadik chaveru. It's like the king is dead, long live the king. There's never a moment where Kadosh Baruch Hu leaves the door without a tzadik. Before HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the sunset of one tzadik, He makes sure that there's another tzaddik ready to take over. Ad shlo shak hashimsho shel Eli HaKohen, zarach hashimsho shel Shmuel. Right? He prepared, before Eli died, Shmuel HaNavi was on the scene. The same with every tzaddik v'tzaddik. So, there's not so much crying out by when a tzaddik passes away, because there'll be another tzaddik. However, a person loses a father, you cannot, there's no comfort for children. There's only one father. There's no replacement for a father. So this was Elisha the Navi's lament, that he knew Eliyahu Navi was not going to come back. There might be another tzaddik, but there's never going to be another Eliyahu Navi. It's more of a comparison to a father than the Rebbe, because you can't replace the father. And that's how he explains why Elisha used the terminology Avi rather than Rebbe. Also, Moed Katan, we learned that for a father and a Rebbe, you have to tear through the hem, through the collar and the hem. And our minhag now is that we do it for everybody as well. And you can't sew them back up. Also on the Nasi, on the Abezdin, if a Sefer Torah was burnt, if you see the Ara Yehuda or the Migdash in its destruction, Yerushalayim, you do a Kriya and you can't sew it back up. How do you know, says the Gemara about Aviv, Imo, V'Rabo? Because Ve'elisha Roev, U'mitzake, and then Vayichazek Bivgadav Vayikrem Shnayim Kroim. He tore them into two pieces. If you say we tore it, don't they know it's two pieces? I mean, they have to remain that way forever. Now, I just want to quote the Psikta, who now also brings all the comparisons between Eliyahu and Moshe Rabbeinu. It says in Hosea, Uvenavi hela Hashem es Yisrael mitzrayim, ze Moshe. Uvenavi nishmar, ze Eliyahu. So there are two Nevi'im from Shevet Levi. Moshe was the first, Eliyahu is the last. Ushneim goalim es Yisrael b'shlichus. They are redeemers of Klal Yisrael as a shaliach. Moshe goalim mitzrayim b'shlichus. Hashem said at the sneh, Ve'ata lecha ve'shlachacha el paro. I'm going to send you as a shaliach. And then by Eliyahu it says, Hinei anochi sholeach lachem es Eliyahu Navi. So they are the shliachs that bring redemption. Moshe shogala mitzrayim tchila lo chazu v'nishtabu mitzrayim. Once Moshe took us out of Mitzrayim, we never went back to Mitzrayim. Ve'eliyahu kishigalo yisam min ha'revius, from the fourth exile, me Edom, od einam choizrim v'mishtabdim elihichuas oilam. The Jewish people will never be subjugated again. That'll be a redemption forever. Moshe was Nikra Ish Elokim, and Ve'eliyahu was Nikra Ish Elokim. Moshe Al Lamala, Ve'eliyahu Al Lamala. Like it says, Vahi Balos Hashem Es Eliyahu Basar Shemayim. Moshe died Ever Yarden, and Eliyahu was taken to Shemayim Ever Yarden. Okay. Pasuk Yud Gimel.
Can I just add some commentary too? Because there's also a whole piece here on the comparison of Moshe and Eliyahu. Moshe was taken after he, at the end of his life, God took him up to the mountain and he died there, right? Without anybody knowing. Eliyahu, but Eliyahu lo meis. What is the difference? Why did Moshe die at the end of his life and Eliyahu didn't die? Because Moshe, according to the explanation, Moshe completed the mission that God gave him to bring the Torah, to bring the Bnei Israel to Har Sinai and teach them the Torah and bring them towards Eretz Yisrael, even though he was not Zocha to go into Eretz Yisrael. Eliyahu, however, his mission was not completed because his mission is to stay alive, whether it's in Gan Eden or it's his soul that stays alive. He has to be there for the Yemos HaMashiach, for the coming, the end of days. So Eliyahu lo meis.
Okay? So that's a distinction between Moshe and
Yeah,
Eli.
a distinction. And then he talks about Adam HaRishon. What happened to Adam HaRishon? He was meant to stay alive forever. God created
Right.
him perfect, right?
Right.
Except then came the chait of the sin of eating the Eitz Hadas, right? Because of his sin, he lost both his comfort and his eternal life.
Hello?
Look, it was a nice commentary.
אני נותן שיר עכשיו מזה? שלום עליכם. אתה צריך להתקשר
בשעה.
בשעה. עוד שעה. כן, מחר גם כן. כן, שלום. Yud Gimel. So here's a proof. Bernie and I were discussing which beged did he tear. So here it says, Vayarem es aderes Eliyahu asher nafla me'olav. That, because I already said that Elisha has tore his begadim. So you see, he was not wearing the aderes up until now. So the aderes is not the beged that was torn. Now he picks up the aderes that had fallen off Eliyahu as he went up to Shemayim. And he dafka left it for Elisha to keep the Ruach HaKodesh flowing. So, Vayarim es aderes Eliyahu asher nafla me'olav, Vayosha vayamod al sfas hayardin. And Elisha is still on the eastern bank of the Jordan, where they had crossed over. So when's the first time we heard about the Saderes? The first time is in Perek Yud Tes, Vayiki Shmo Eliyahu vayalet panav ba'adar to. Remember, Eliyahu is in that cave, and he's having a vision of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not in the big noise, it's not in the rash, it's not in the wind, it's the kol d'mama daka, that vision that Eliyahu had. It says, vayalet panav ba'adar to. He covered his face when the Shekhinah passed over him with this aderes. So it's a siman of Gilui Shekhinah. The second time we heard of the aderes was Vayashlech adarto elav. When Eliyahu meets up with Elisha, he covers Elisha with his cloak in order to bring mechanech him to be a Navi. And this is the remez that the Ruach Elokim that was burning in Eliyahu was going to continue in Elisha. In fact, the Abarbanel says that all the time when Eliyahu was alive, Elisha was his Meshares. And there was no Ruach. Elisha didn't do any prophesizing. He didn't do any Nisim. After Eliyahu was taken, we'll see immediately. There's a Ruach Elokim that falls on Elisha and he starts doing miracles, similar to the miracles that Eliyahu Hanavi did. This is why we also learn that you shouldn't be Moira Hoira in front of your Rebbe. You shouldn't paskin a shayla when your Rebbe is there. Because we see Elisha didn't prophesy, didn't do any nisim, only after his death. Okay, Posuk Yudalit. Vaikachas aderes Eliyahu asher nafla me'olav. He took the aderes. Then it says Vayakes hamayim. Just like when they crossed over the Jordan, Eliyahu did the same thing. He hit the water with his aderes. We'll see here. Some hold he rolled up the aderes and hit the water. Some say he hit it with something else. Because Vayomar, he says, Ayeh Hashem Elohei Eliyahu. Where is the Lord God of Eliyahu. Mashma that when he hit the water the first time, it hadn't split. Afu vayaket hamayim, he did it again. Vayechatzu heina v'heina, vayavo Elisha. The Jordan splits, and Elisha walks back towards the west. It's called Aderes Eliyahu because its chashivas comes from Eliyahu, the ruach from Eliyahu, and now it's being transferred to Elisha. But when he tried to do it with the Aderes Eliyahu, like Eliyahu did, it didn't break, it didn't split. Elisha thought that there's kedusha in this Aderes because Eliyahu. And Elisha's an Anav. He was attributing all the Nisim to the schus of his Rebbe, but it's not so. Eliyahu has been taken away. There's no kedusha in that Aderes at all. So Rabbeinu Bachai and Yonasan ben Uziah learn here that he davened that the Jordan should split. And Rashi here says that there would be a haftacha from Eliyahu that he would have pishnayim. So since Eliyahu was able to split the Jordan, it has to happen for him as well. But it's Elisha who's doing it. Elisha ba'atzmo, either with his hand or with a stick, but dafka not with the Aderes Eliyahu, to show that it's Elisha who's doing it. And we'll see the Bnei Nevi'im is watching this. And they see that it's not through the Aderes Eliyahu that the Jordan is splitting. The Radak says something even more radical. That it was Eliyahu Navi that came, his ruach, and he struck the water here and caused it to split. But according to the Pshat, we've been learning that it was double more nace that Elisha split it than Eliyahu. Why? Because when Eliyahu split it, there was the schus of both of them, Eliyahu and Elisha. Now there's only the schus of Elisha. So again, it's the twice the nace. You notice that Elisha says, Elokei Eliyahu. He uses his Rebbe's name. It says in Sanhedrin, Kuf Amud Aleph. Who is an apikoiris? Omer Rav Nachman Ze'akoy Rabbi Bishmo. Whoever calls his Rebbe by his name. You have to say Rebbe. Dam Rav Yechon Neiman Nenash Gechazi. Mipnei Shekor LaRabbi Bishmo. Shenamar Vayomer Gechazi Adoni HaMelech Zot Aisha V'zeh B'na Asher Hechya Elisha. So Gechazi was punished by calling Elisha by his name. The Shulchan Aruch in Yoredeya, which we learn as a group, also l'tamid likros l'Rabbi Bishmo, lo b'chayev v'lo b'moso. So the Sefer Chasidim explain that here the word of Hashem is used. Vayomer ayeh Hashem Elokei Eliyahu. So what is it going to say? Adon. You wouldn't say my master Eliyahu when you're referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And also the name of Eliyahu itself is an honorific name, Kel Yehu, which is the name of Hashem. Pasuk Tezvav. Vayiru b'nei Nevim asher b'Yerucho mineged. The Bnei Nevim see what's going on from the other side. Vayomru nacha ruach Eliyahu al Elisha. They immediately identify that Eliyahu is acting with Ruach HaKodesh. Vayavo likroso vayishtachu lo artso. They come towards him and they bow to him.
Elisha was welcome.
What was that?
You said Eliyahu. You meant Elisha.
No, that the Ruach of Eliyahu came on Elisha. So the Bnei Nevim came towards Elisha. They saw that the Jordan had split. They did not see the chariot of fire. but he's seeing that they're seeing that Elisha is doing the various miracles that Eliyahu used to do. They know that it's not the Aderes Eliyahu that caused the split. He did it himself. So it's all b'schus Elisha. So he warrants their servitude. Pasuk Tetzai. Vayanu elav. Hinena yesh et avadecha 50 anashim b'nei chayim. We are 50 strong men. Yelchu na v'yivakshu sadonecha. We want to do a search party and look for Eliyahu. Pen naso ruach Hashem, maybe a wind blew him. Vayashlicheu b'chad ha'arim. He's been thrown in one of the mountains, or b'chasa geyos, maybe one of the valleys. Vayomer lo tishlahu. Basically, Elisha tells them, he went up to Shemayim. You won't find him. You won't find him where you want it, where you think he's there. He's not hiding. He's not alive. Now, why did they think so? Because many times we have where Eliyahu left them. He would go into Hidbodadut. He would go into solitude, where he separated for 40 days and 40 nights. And other times, they couldn't find him. Like when Ovadia was looking for him. So that's where maybe they thought he was. So Elisha says, don't waste your time. He's in Shammai. And perhaps the Bnei Nevi'im, says the Malbim, understood that he's not alive. But they didn't know what happened to him. They didn't see the chariot of fire. Maybe his body they would find. Maybe the wind blew him somewhere. They wanted to bury his body. Bodies don't go up to Shemayim. The Shamas go to Shemayim, not bodies. So that's what Elisha said. You don't have to, his body went to Shemayim too. And now, you remember, we learned Pasuk Gimel, when Elisha met up with the Bnei Nevi'im, they said to him, Hayadata ki el yom Hashem likach et aronecha? The Bnei Nevi'im told Elisha, today, your master is going to be taken to Shemayim. So you see very clearly that they had Ruach HaKodesh. Now they don't have anything. Teaches us that from when Eliyahu was taken away, Ruach HaKodesh left the Nevi'im. And it was very minimally present. Not like we said before that there were a lot of Nevi'im, but once Eliyahu was taken, his influence on all these people for Nevuah went away. But the people didn't give up. Vayivtzru vo ad bosh. He was embarrassed already, Elisha, to not allow them to go search for him. Like maybe he doesn't want Eliyahu to come back because he's going to take away the power that Elisha has. Vayomer shlachu, okay, go. Vayishlachu chamishim ish. They sent 50. Vayibakshu shlosha yomim v'lo matzo. They looked for 3 days and they couldn't find anything. Vayashuvu elav, v'hu yoshev b'Yericho. By this time, he's in Yericho, very close to the Jordan. Those of you who've been there. Vayomer aleim alo amarti aleichem al techu. I told you not to go. Vayomru anshe ha'ir el Elisha. While Elisha is there, the population of Yericho tells Elisha, Hinena moshav ha'ir tov. We have a nice looking city, kasher adoni roeh, but hamayim ra'im ve'haaretz meshakelet. The water is bad, and everyone's dying. Women are having miscarriages, and they're bearing their children. And the Radak reminds us, brings a Yalkut Shimoni, that Yericho was in this stage since Yoshua cursed it. And then Eliyahu, because when the Chiel and his sons died with Achav and they visited it, he also cursed it again. So they were wondering whether Elisha could help them improve their city. Now there's a chazal that Rashi brings. Amrav Chanan Chein Makom HaYoshva. Sometimes a place has a certain charm to the people who live there. And the Gemara says, Shloisha Chinoisei. Chein Makom HaYoshva, the charm of a city on its inhabitants. Chein Isha Al Baila, the charm that a wife has for her husband. Vice versa. The husband finds chein in his wife. And chein mekach al mekach, when a person buys something, he has a certain attachment to it. People have chein with the city because they're used to living there. So it binds a person there and it's hard for them to leave. Now, the Rabbah comments that even though Yoshua made a curse on somebody who rebuilt Yericho, there's no prevention of people living there. Otherwise, the Nevi'im wouldn't be living there. So Elisha says, Vayom Rekchuli Tzlochis Chadash. Bring me a new flask. V'simu sham melach. Put salt in the flask.
Ernie, can I just interrupt you a second?
Sure.
The commentary here it says Haaretz Mishakeles, that the land loses its inhabitants. So apparently that's the same lashon that Yoshua used when he.
1 second, Bernie. My computer, 1 second. Go ahead, Bernie.
The word Mishakeles is the same word that Yehoshua used when he cursed Yericho, right?
Yes.
A curse on the builder of Yericho, but the curse was that the children of the inhabitants of Yericho would die one by one until the city was completely completed. So that's the word Mishakeles. Not only the
same
land
word.
itself, but the people.
But the klola was that was going to remember on a person who rebuilt it, and we met that person. Remember, he rebuilt it, and then all of his children died. We had that earlier on.
Yes, that's what I was referring to.
Okay, and the Mishakeles. So you bring up a word that Mishakeles was part of the klola that Yoshua did it as well. Correct?
Yes, that's what it says. Yes.
Okay, so Elisha asks for a flask that has salt in it. Vayetze el motza mayim. He went to a spring, which was the source of the water. Vayashlech sham melach. And he threw salt there. Vayomer, Koamar Hashem, Ripisi lamayim ha'ela, I'm going to heal these waters. Lo yeh misham od mavesu mishakeles. The water will not be the source of death anymore. So, Vayirapu hamayim, the water was healed. Ada yom hazeh, kidvar Elisha sher diper. So, this is a nace, mitoch nace. It would be a nace to just repair the water, but salt is something that's going to ruin the water. It's not going to make it better. So it's a nace mitoch, a double nace. Bitter is merapa the bitter.
This is how he gets to a count of 16 nisim. A number of.
Well, this is going to be one of them.
Yes, one. So, but it's double. That's all I'm saying. Kaful.
We're going to see. There's going to be 8 where there's eventually. Here, we'll anticipate them here. Number 1, this is Elisha's nisim. Chitza esayarde. He split the Jordan. He just crossed it again. Ripe amayim. Now we're going to see haraga yeladim bedubim. He created a forest and bears you know what, again, I want to hold back.
Yeah,
on
that's, it
this.
goes further on in the next paragraph.
Yeah, because I would rather let's leave it until we're finished.
Okay.
The Mabim says that Yericho was a place that they had bad thoughts. Minus, minus means heresy against Hashem. So Mayim refers to Torah. And Melach, right, preserves Torah, like Bris Melach. So he wanted to make a remez that their Yesodos should be strong with Torah. That's how the Malbim is. Now, the same way they came, they're going back. First, when he came with Eliyahu, they went to Beis Kale, then Yericho, then they crossed the Jordan. Now Elisha is going back the same path. He was on the Eivra Yarden. He crossed Yericho. Now, Vayal Misham Beit El. He's heading to Beit El. V'hu ole baderach. He's walking on the road. Una'arim ktanim yatsu min ha'ir. Young children came out of the city. Vayiskalsubo. They cursed him. Vayomru lo. Ale kereach, ale kereach. Go up, you bald one. Go up, you bald one. Elisha was bald, and Eliyahu had a lot of hair. We had before. Eliyahu ish bal se'ar. They said, you're never going to reach the madrega of Eliyahu, your Rebbe. We don't want you to stay here. The Ramban goes in Shmos, goes through a whole thing about what does it mean, Yeled and Nar? Were they ktanim? Were they adults? So Chazal in Sota Memvav says, Amar Lazar, they were adults, but menu arim and mitzvahs, they were empty of mitzvahs. Ktanim shayu miktani emuna. They were very small in their emuna. Tana na'arim ubizbuzu atzmin ktanim. They wasted their time like children. So the word katan doesn't mean that they were minors, but regarding how they behaved and regarding their emunah. And then it's not a problem because we're going to see Elisha is going to punish them if they were katanim. Katanim are not really worthy of punishment. Now, why did these children or these people not have any respect for Elisha? So some say that these people used to provide water for Yericho. Now Elisha cured the water, so it took their panos away, so they were upset. There's a deeper pshat. Sota memvav amud beis. On Rav Yochanan mishum Rav Meir. Kol she'eino malave u'mislave kilu shofech damim. If you have a guest and you don't escort him partly the way away, it's like you murdered him. If the people of Yericho had accompanied Elisha, then this attack of bears on the children would never have happened. It's Beloshen Yochid. He went by himself. He went by himself. The Na'arim would have not even done this if there would have been people with him. You don't have to be malavis somebody all the way to where they're going. With the Levaya, you have a chibur with that person. And you're not damaged because you're connected to somebody else. Vayif and Achrab Vayareh.
Sorry, Ernie, can I just add in another commentary from the Radak, which is very interesting?
Yes.
He said the word katanim, little, doesn't have to do with their size, but this how small their faith was. And then he brings, some say that Elisha saw that all of them had been conceived on Yom Kippur. Their parents had violated the holiness of that day when it was forbidden for man and wife to have intimate relations. As their beginning had been in sin, so Elisha saw that their end would be. He cursed them not in anger or vengeance, but because he saw no good would ever come of them.
Right? Like Moshe Rabbeinu before he struck the Mitzri, Vayifen ko vacho, he looked throughout the generations. And we're going to see that in this pasuk. Vayifen achra vayirem. He looked and he saw either benavua, vayikalelem b'shem Hashem. He used the Shem Hashem. Vatetzena shtaim dubim min hayar. 2 bears came out of a forest. Vativkana mehem arbaim u'shnei ladim. The bears ate 42 of the children. Some say it was just, there were no bears, but there was a forest. That's Rav. And Shmuel says there was no forest and no bears, and he created both. So the Gemara asks, what did they do that they were mechuyev misa? Because they insulted him? So they darshan from the post sota mem vav on the base. Vayifen achra vayirem ma ra amarav ra mamish. He saw kol makom shenastu chachamim einayim o misa o oni. When a chacham looks at you in that certain way, either death or poverty. And Shmuel says, Ra shekula nisabra behen iman b'yom kippur. You're not allowed to have relations on Yom Kippur. And all these kids were born because their mothers had relations on Yom Kippur. Rav Yitzchak Nafcha says, Blur Yisra, they had a special kind of haircut, like the Avodah Zarah priests. And Rav Yochanan Rosh Loisa ben Lachluchi Shel Mitzvah, they had no mitzvahs. And Rabbi Eliezer says, Lo bam, v'lo bezaram, atzov kol hadoros. So it's a 5-way machlokas tanoim as to what he saw. It could have been all, they were, so there's a reason why, but they still didn't do anything that was chayv misa. So really, it says in Sota that Elisha was punished, that he cursed these kids. Taraban shloisha chaloin chalo Elisha. Elisha was sick 3 times. Echad shegira dubim betinoikos, because of the sin that he sent the bears on the kids. Echad shedachvu legechazi b'shtei yadayim. He pushed Gechazi away with 2 hands. And the echad shemeisponi, and the machla that he died from. So he was nenash for this. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is medatekim tzadikim k'zchut asara. According to Rav Schwab, it was an inyan of Kavod HaTorah, and he was mutter to curse them because of that. These were kids who had grown up. Beis El was the place where Yerav ben Nevat had put the Agolim. And they wouldn't go up to the Aliyah L'Regel, the Beis HaMikdash. Many generations of the Avodah Zarah. They didn't care about the Torah, about the Nevi'im, about Gedolei HaTorah. People who hated religion. That's why the Bnei Nevi'im had to live outside the city to try to do kiruv. It wasn't easy for them to influence the Rishonim in the city. And this is why these kids came out of the city. And I think about, Rabbi, there were people, Rav Kook and Rav Chaim Sonnenfeld, they went on a tshuva train. And some of the non-religious kibbutzim welcomed them, some did not welcome them. So this is a Kavod Torah issue. There is koach to a Navi, and there shouldn't be Chilul Hashem. And that's the shot why the Gemara goes through all these things that they were born on Yom Kippur, or they had a special Beatles haircut, because they grew up that way. So Vayelech Misham El Har Carmel uMisham Shav Shomron. We come full circle. Elisha goes back to Har Carmel, and then he goes back to Shomron, and we will see the continuation of Elisha Navi's prophecies and life. Questions, comments, or orals? Any other questions, comments? Okay, very good. Until next week, then.
Very
Yeah,
Good week. Everybody should have a good week and
You
be safe.